everybody. Welcome to The Truth Will Set You Free. This show is brought to you by TLBTV and the Liberty Beacon Project. Again, I am so excited about our guest today. Her name is Celeta McCall. Hi, Celeta.
Hi, how are you?
I am wonderful because I have you on our show. Let me start first to say I am honored that we have a veteran with us today.
Yes, yay!
Celeta wears many hats.
Yes, exactly.
Yet she is still a lady that's gentle and kind and giving.
Oh my God. Thank you.
She served in the military. Tell us about the military, because you didn't just serve your time, you also continue to be connected to them, right?
Yes, I did. I served my military active duty time. Then I went into reserve time. Then I also did some National Guard time. And during my National Guard time, one of the jobs I had was working as a drill instructor with the Youth Challenge program. It didn't stop there because I wound up getting a job at the VA and worked with more veterans there, and became, as I was working with those veterans, I was part of the American Legion, where I was the first African-American female vice commander over my American Legion Post 50 at Camp Stafford. So yeah.
And also, we both agree that somewhere along that journey, you experienced PTSD?
Yes, I did. During my active duty time, military sexual trauma took place during my tour in Panama, I think it was before Operation Just Cause. And as you guys know how that works and how it leaves the victim, which I don't call myself victim anymore, I am victory, because I came through it and I'm here. With the many times that I didn't recognize that I was suffering from PTSD, there was like 3 times that I wanted to do away with myself. Didn't know that's what I was suffering from. And I didn't find that out till later in years, or like way later in years, that I was diagnosed with PTSD. Because what people don't understand, and I don't want to say anything really too negative, what people don't understand, when we came back from Desert Storm, a lot of people didn't know how to recognize our PTSDs. They didn't understand what we were going. So what they were doing was they were labeling everybody dysemic disorders or depression, when it was reality, it was PTSD. So when the soldiers came back from Iraq, during Operation Freedom, I'm thinking that's when they recognized PTSD and started actually letting us know, yeah, you guys got it. But in the meantime, we were suffering. I've lost friends since then that didn't know what they were going through. A lot of suicides take place because nobody could diagnose what PTSD was. And it's sad that they were not up on it. You think about the Vietnam War, you think about all the wars prior to Vietnam, that a lot of people lost their lives, lost their families because of PTSD, but it was never medically recognized. So once they've started recognizing, I noticed with the women, they've been very vigilant in trying to keep us abreast of anything, any new developments, any ways they can help us. They have been doing it. They've created outreach programs, programs within the VA, in the women's clinics, to help us. I participated with a couple of programs they had for PTSD, women with PTSD, and particularly MST PTSD.
Wow. Even though you had all that happen to you, for some reason you still kept a positive outlook on the military.
I did. And I thought, because you know why? Once I started working at the VA and working around people who were like me, it's hard to keep that hardness up, because I'm seeing people suffering worse than I am. I'm seeing people losing limbs, when you see all that, your worries and your situation becomes minimized. When you're looking at what everybody else is going through and talking and hearing their horror stories, it's a whole different ball game. So you do have to, you have to have some type of attitude, not necessarily always negative, but you have to have some type of attitude. And I thought my job, working for the VA and being a soldier, was to take care of those veterans and making them first and making sure that they're first and taken care of. And that's what I did. So it was kind of easy for me to kind of put my issues aside so that I could help others.
And the thing I learned about you also is, because you served in the military, you seem to be a natural born server.
Yes. Yes. Every job that I've had since I left the military was a customer service type job. It's hard to get away from that. It really is, if that's in. But then if you're naturally, if you're naturally a server, if you're naturally a person that loves to give and nurture other people and motivate other people and encourage and inspire, that's a serving type position that you're in. And I've done that in my religious atmosphere, in my home atmosphere, in my friendship atmosphere. I've tried to be that person. I'm not, and I always let people know I am not flawless. Okay, I have a lot of flaws. I'm a determined person. When something needs to be done, I'm very much so passionate about it. On top of that, I'm also an activist. So those all go together and they work well for me. Some people sometimes seem to be intimidated, but I'm really like a big teddy bear. You know what I'm saying? I have a heart of gold, and I try to always make sure that I'm expressing that to other people. I give up a lot of time, free time. I do things that people should be getting paid for, like other people do get paid for. I do it for free. And I've been doing it for a long time. So after a while, you just become comfortable in those things, helping people to make change in their lives, getting out the messages, inspiring people. All those things are part of who I am. And when you said you wear many hats, yes, I do. I wear many hats. I was talking to a lady today. We were in Home Depot, and she was telling us about herself, and she said, I'm a jack of all trade and master of none. And I've always said that about myself, because God has gifted me where I can do a little bit of everything. Not everything, but a little bit of a lot of things. Let me say it that way. And I'm not in the business to always perfect everything I do, but at least if I'm helping someone, I can get them over that first hurdle. I might not get them all the way through, but I can get them over that first hurdle with the knowledge that I have. So that's what I usually do. And that's why I say I'm a jack of all trades, master of none.
And the thing about it is, people don't understand how we take and use PTSD. We don't let it control our life.
Exactly.
How do you explain how you use PTSD to even function in life, to even be a better purpose with people?
Well, what I've done is I've put in my mind, how I think of it is like, if I stop doing all the things that I do, that's when my depression and my PTSD kicks in. As long as I'm doing something, I'm helping people, I'm doing all the things I love to do. I'm wearing all the hats that I'm wearing. When I'm doing that, that's my comfort, that's my therapy. When I'm not doing it and I start feeling useless and I feel like I'm not doing enough, that's when the PTSD can conquer or come in and take over. So I constantly keep busy. Because if I don't keep busy, that's when I'm just like done. I flatline. I'm not saying I die, but I flatline. And I told my psychiatrist, I said, if I don't stay busy, I'm done. And I say that because I have to say that for myself, because I have to continue doing something. I have to, because if I stop doing it, that's it. And I know that. So I never try to get to the point where I stop doing something. If it's not even for somebody, but just doing something, I have to continue keeping myself busy. And that distracts me from thinking about my PTSD. And then, of course, they put us on medicine
Another hat that you wear is you're an author. You write
Yes.
poetry. And you had wrote a book about ministers, men.
Yes. It was a therapy. I was going through some stuff and issues with the ex-pastor. And that was my therapy, was to write a book about them. And it was called Mighty Ministries of Men. And I haven't finished part two. There's a part one and then there's part two. And it's not for everybody. It's very graphic. It's very adult. I have to tell people that because they need to know that. There are some adult scenes in there that are like make you blush. I don't know why I wrote that, but I wanted the rawness of what some pastors do. Okay, we might as well say the truth about the truth. Okay, and it's an interesting book because these pastors that started this organization, these 4 pastors, they were like gang. They were like a mafia, a small mafia. And they had city councilmen in their pockets. And they had to do some stuff that they regretted doing. But in the process of all that, they had wives and families, and they had to play those dual roles. And then, they all had churches. And a lot of stuff that they were doing with some of the church members was like unethical. Okay.
So is there any truth to it?
No. I'm a fiction writer. It's hard for me to write truth. It's more fun. I'm a fiction person because I use my imagination in a lot of things. Some people can write both. I haven't gone to the point where I can write something related to something real, but not outright write because I've been working on my autobiography, sort of, but it's hard for me to write about myself because when you sit down and actually look at yourself and actually read and think about yourself, you're like, dog, I'm boring. Who would want to read about me? You know what I'm saying? So that's why I stopped. That's all I can't write. I cannot write a nonfiction. Let me move forward. So I don't do that. I usually write a fiction book because fiction is more fun. And it gives you a chance to stretch your imagination to the fullest. So that's the reason why I stick in that.
And another hat you wear, you're a radio show host.
I'm a radio show host and a radio station owner. I own an online radio station called Universal Collective Network. You can get us on Airtime Pro. We're on TuneIn.com. You can get the app. And we're also on StreamLicensing.com, which you can also get the app for that one. We just got featured for the 3rd time this year as number 1 in the number 1 spot on the Stream Licensing Radio Directory. That's 3 times in a row. I was just like shocked. This was the 3rd time this month. They sent me a letter. Dear, congratulations, Universal Collective Network has been chosen as a feature. So what you do is once you look at the email and you look at the link and you take the link back to their stream licensing page, we were number 1. So that's like the 3rd time this year. We did it back in February, we did it in April, and then we turned around and did it in July. So that's a 24-hour radio station online. Then I'm in the process, and I'm with I partner with a group where we're actually bringing a actual terrestrial, what we call terrestrial radio station in our local area. So I would be basically kind of operating that one when we get everything together. So yeah.
You're originally from New York?
Yes, I'm from Albany, New York. I was born in Albany, New York. Yeah.
So how did you end up in Louisiana?
My mom is a Louisianan. Born and raised down here, and she wanted to come home and to take care of my grandmother and my grandfather and my oldest auntie, and they were very sick. They all passed away, and we wound up staying. I wound up going to high school here, and then we wind up. I went to the military from here, and I've been here now about 19 years because I left. When I went to the military, I came back 16 years later and stayed. I've been here since then. I was about to leave again, but guess what? My husband had a hook, and he hooked it on me, and that's why I'm still here.
Wow. The thing about you also is you're very much an advocate for a person who can't speak.
That's right.
One of the things that you brought to my attention is you really don't care for the 4th of July.
No. Yes, we discussed that. Yes.
Yeah.
That is the activist side of me, and that's the side of me that I want everybody to understand. We were not free. 1776. We didn't get free to 1860 something, if I'm not mistaken. So when I say we, I'm talking about my ancestors and your ancestors. Were not free. We were still in bondage. The date that we're supposed to celebrate is June 19th, which is the Juneteenth. That's when Texas finally got the message that they were free. And that was a whole year later. Nobody told them for a whole year that they were already free. And that's where June 19th comes in at. And that's what we're supposed to celebrate. If we're going to celebrate any holiday, it would be Juneteenth, not July 4th.
You really don't feel like soldiers don't get the respect that they once had received?
No, we used to get, I don't know, maybe we can relate to that. I don't know. But no, we don't. I noticed that we're now an afterthought in a lot of situations. Because you guys got to remember, when Desert Storm took place, I remember the yellow ribbon. Matter of fact, I think my mom still has my yellow ribbon. They gave everybody a yellow ribbon for soldiers who were going overseas, who were going to Desert Storm. And there was a whole different atmosphere. These people were loving us. They were we got so much stuff sent to us all the time while we were gone. And I just noticed that attitude is not there. And if you look at some of our soldiers that, using the VA, look at how they treated some of the VAs. I think the one in Chicago where they had the people piled up in the morgue, dead people. Nobody would claim them, and they never contacted the right people. The backlog and the disability and compensation. I mean, it's just like one thing after another. It's just like gotten so out of hand, and people suffered and people died in between them not having their stuff together. They were not prepared for us to come out. To come out the military. They're still not prepared, because I still hear horror stories from veterans who suffer from things that were not done for them. Shoot, I try not to complain, but a lot of things that I've been through since I've been out and trying to get things that I needed, and the crap, I want to use the word crap, that you have to go through for compensation for something that happened to you while you were under their watch. It wasn't like you were in the streets. You were under their watch. That's how things happen. That's how the MST took place. That's how people lose their legs, their arms. They have headaches. All of that happened while we were in the service. So if you've done something to damage somebody, why are you fighting them for it?
Wow.
Think about it. You did this. So why are you fighting them to get the benefits to pay for what was done? So that's my beef with them.
And one of the things that I saw, that you kind of look at Louisiana like it's a place of crime.
Mm-hmm. Louisiana's nickname is corruption, and that's corruption. Crime is the same thing. If we can convict some people, it would be crime. It would be criminal. Now, yes. What happened is I was watching this young man in Baton Rouge, and how they were talking about where our numbers are as far as stats go. It's Mississippi first, and we're second. We used to be first in corruption. We used to be first in a lot of things, but Mississippi done creeped up and took our place in some stats. But we're right there with them. We haven't. It's like we're sisters in the craziness that goes on in our states. The racism that goes on in our states, the mass incarceration. As you know, Louisiana has the highest rate of mass incarcerated people on the earth, where we have more people than China, Russia, Germany. Yes, Louisiana does. We lock up more people than most states do. So if you look at our judicial system and how it's set up, that's why these types of things are happening. Policies need to be changed. Whether we ever get real justice, equal justice, I don't know. But it's a fight. and people are fighting for it. And Louisiana does have a racist background. It's deep, it's ancestral, and a lot of people still practice it. I mean, practice a sickness, because I call it a sickness. But they still practice it, and they teach their children to practice it.
And you also spoke for the dead, that young boy.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, the Jason Smith story, that's the activism side of me. Me and a friend of mine who passed away, his mother and father had a local newspaper here, and I would hang out with him to go on different news stuff. And then he invited me to become a co-host to one of his radio shows. And that's how we started hanging out and doing things together. And that was one of the stories we found. And we contacted the father, and we had been helping them back and forth, trying to find the answers, because everything did not add up. And to this day, it still doesn't add up. And I actually, since he passed away, I kind of left everything alone because I had to grieve. My buddy is gone, you know. And then I kind of caught up with the father, and now I've lost contact with him again. But I have another friend that was curious about the case too, and she's doing some stuff for me now with the case to see if we can find some more answers on some other stuff that we were looking into. So yeah.
But
got a little detectiveness in me.
Yeah, but they had closed that case, and because you was like a squeaking wheel, you didn't let them shut down. They had to open it, right?
Yeah, what happened was they said it was an accidental drowning, but the young man hated water. He had a water phobia. I don't know if it's called acrophobia, but he couldn't stand water. And the reason why he couldn't stand water was they were all at home, if I'm not mistaken, the story that was told to me was, and one of his cousins drowned in the bathtub, and they were at home when it happened. So that's where he got his phobia from. So he's not going to go near water. He's not going to fish. He wasn't going to do any of those things. And he was only 14 years old.
It wasn't the KKK.
Well, the story was the young man who was the instigator in it. He was, I think at the time he was 17 or 18 years old. He beat him up real bad. And his father, the young man's father, was known to ride with the KKK or be part of the KKK. So they said it was a form of initiation for him to get in it. But we do know that it was said, rumored was that he got away with murder. So somebody knows the truth. And the young man who was the same age as Jason was also a witness to what happened. But he's too scared to talk. Now that he's grown, he might talk now. We contact him and see what he'll tell us. But the lady who lived next door to the young man said that he got away with murder. And she basically said, everybody knows that he got away with murder. And that's what was told to us. So.
And then you also still keep advocating. Alexandria, Louisiana, and it's another town, begin with a P, I'm not sure.
Yeah, Pineville,
Yes.
Alexandria, Pineville is the areas that we live in. It's called Rapides Parish. We have parishes here. What you guys call counties, because we're under the French rule, they're called parishes here. We live in Rapides Parish. And Central Louisiana, every now and then you might hear that word, that's the Alexandria, Pineville area. Central Louisiana is a central part of the state. And we're having some issues in Alexandria area with our mayor. This city has never had an African-American mayor, ever. And we're 60% African-American population. Majority of the businesses are basically owned by our Caucasians. So everything is like totally opposite. Now, when you go over to the Pineville side, it's a predominantly white city, but we have a black mayor. And he's been in that position over 20-something years. So obviously something is going right. Huh? Yeah, he's been in there. He's been in there undefeated. Every time he goes to be elected, he goes in there undefeated.
The people are dying.
Mm-hmm. The EPA, yeah, we had me and Miss Agnes. I would love for you to meet Miss Agnes. Beautiful lady who, how did I meet Miss Agnes? I think I went to a meeting or something, and yeah, that's what it was. General Honore. If you guys know anything about General Honore was the National Guard general that came down and handled up on Katrina. He had came to Alexandria, and through her, and that's how I met her when I did. I went and did a video with her, and me and her became friends. So I started inviting her on my radio show that was on one of the local radio stations. And we would get people come together, do meetings and stuff, and talk about what's going on. And me and her have been friends ever since. Wonderful lady, but she's like this one little person that can holler to the top of her lungs, and people listened. I felt sorry for her because she wasn't getting any help from her local councilman, and people that should be your city government was totally silent on your knowing that they brought these factories in here. Yeah, it brought jobs, but it also killed people down through the years. You have to understand, majority of the time back in the day when industrial plants came in, they would be built in Black neighborhoods. That was a must. They were all built in Black neighborhoods. And when they built them in Black neighborhoods, it was easy to poison us. You need a job, we got a house, and we got a job for you. And that's basically what it was. And the problem we have here, it's called creosote. Creosote is if you see electric poles, and you see that green, that black stuff on it, that's creosote. And it has a chemical in it called dioxetine, I think that's what it is. And that is a cancer carcinogen. They found that out later on. And benzotine, I think is the other one. And it's a cancer-causing chemical agent, or whatever you want to call it. And people were dying of cancer here. We have a high rate of cancer here. They have an area down by Baton Rouge, Lake Charles. They call it Cancer Alley. And it's where I think Exxon is down there. Shell is down there. The big fuel companies are down there. And people are literally dying from the chemicals. And, hey, I can pay a fine. EPA comes in and you pay a fine and keep moving on and keep killing people. So that's what, and not only Louisiana, Alabama had a big problem too with it. Mississippi, and even some parts of Texas probably suffer from this too. You got to remember the Gulf, they have most of their, names out in the Gulf. So oil rigs out in the Gulf. So you look at all of that, and it's the best way. You give them the good jobs, you give them houses to live in, you pay them good, and then you kill them. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but that's basically the history. The railroad is involved with the poisoning because the logs that they use for the telephone poles and the railroad tracks. Those the tracks. You know how the tracks are laid on top of this wood. Well, that's also where the creosote was used on those too. They're called cross ties.
So what kind of time frame are you talking about that this has continued?
Oh, Lord Jesus, those come over 100 years. And the crazy part about it is they would change names. Yeah. Down here in Louisiana, from the dissertation I read about the whole thing with the chemicals, back in the day when they found there's a certain tree here that is used for that. And this tree was only grown in Louisiana. So people from Iran, India, China, all over the place were coming here and buying up land and taking land, okay, just to get to that certain tree, because that was big money back then. The railroad, got to remember, the railroad was being built back then too. So KC, Kansas City, rails, what's the other one? There's so many of them that were involved in that. You had to move the logs, and then you had to build the railroad with the cross ties. So they were all involved in it. Your shipping industry was involved in it. You think about all the people. It's like this little bubble that's already turned into five different bubbles, even though it's a little small bubble, because so many people have their hands in it and help poisoning us. I mean, right to this day, there is a plant, like I live close to Pineville. I'm on the outskirts of what we call Pineville. There is a plant, a creosote plant, that's right directly across the street from where my husband was born and raised. My husband has cancer. His brother had cancer. His father had cancer. And several other people who lived in that area has cancer or have passed away with cancer. In Alexandria, there is a whole section of Alexandria in the predominantly Black neighborhood where people literally died. Like there's nobody in that area, except some of the kids are left. And when me and Miss Agnes went to interview them, we interviewed a young man, and he just went by house who died of cancer, pointed out who died of cancer. And Miss Agnes, what caught Miss Agnes gotten so much involved is when they tested her sister's house that's right around the corner from her house, in her attic, they found that dioxetine in the attic. And she died of cancer.
In that area?
Huh?
Didn't you mention schools in that area?
Yes, we have schools in that area. We have 8 schools within, I think it's a 2-mile radius. Yes. And over here in Pineville, we have a school, historical school. It used to be a Black school, historical Black school. They turned it into a training center for disabled kids. They found the chemicals around the outside of the playground against the fence line. So that was a big thing. So the kids can't go outside and play. So instead of removing the kids out the building, the kids are in the building. They voted the other day to keep the kids in the building instead of moving them. So this is ongoing. It's always something going on. And the person, one of the people, one of the corporations here, and you might hear the name Roy O. Martin is the name of the company. I think it's the son who's left now. They literally own Alexandria because they've benefited from their plants being in our cities. They benefited a lot. And they're one of the largest landowners in Louisiana. They own 660,000 acres of land. Now, how do you find somebody to go up against somebody with that much power? You can. We give them jobs.
And you say, because I wonder why people stayed or...
Well, and that's another problem we're starting to have too. People are starting to move away from here. And see, what people don't understand when it comes to land grants, when it comes to money, when it comes to funding, federal funding, the average is 50,000 population. When your population starts to decrease, some of that funding starts to decrease also with it. You're not open to a lot of funding because you don't have the population. That also affects businesses when you don't have the population, because most businesses come to cities and towns according to the demographics. Then when they do their market analysis, they look at the household income, they look at the demographics, and those are part of the demographics. How many people are here in each section. And that's what keeps a lot of businesses from coming here, which those businesses bring jobs. And if they can't get the population, then they know they're not going to make the money. So they don't come. We've had several of them close since in the last 6 months that have been here. Our restaurants have actually closed because when your population decreases, businesses can't survive. You don't have enough people to come in the store because they have to average all that out on a daily basis. And if you don't have the population and the income to match what they need to be making and what they need to be serving, the products that they have to give, to sell, it's not good. It's not good at all. But what's happening is also here is that the Pineville area is being built up And people are moving over here on this side of town and leaving the Alexandria side, and that's why Alexandria is suffering so much. We have a high unemployment rate in that area, with it being 60%, I don't say 58, 60% African American. You know how they feel about us, and I'm just being point blank with you. You know how they feel about us. So a lot of times we're being deprived economically in some of our areas. We don't have grocery stores where there's predominantly Black. They have to walk, or they have to get on a bus to go to the Walmarts, to the Krogers, to what we have Max Fresh Foods here. We have, then you have your Super One, and then you have your Walmart, your Super Walmarts. So they're not in the proximity of any grocery stores. So you have a food desert going on. And, you know, they have food deserts mostly all over the United States where African Americans live. For some reason, we're not allowed stores, you know. But we have to change that. We have to change that by changing people in office. When you change the people in office that's going to stand by you and do what's right for you, then you can move forward. But as long as you have the same old people in there, it's nothing going to happen. So we have big elections coming up in 2018, and we're encouraging people to start moving people out. Tell them to start packing their stuff because they got to go. And I mean, that's how you have to do it. You have to do it like that. We've been nice. We've been sitting by. We've been suffering. The children don't have anything to do for the summer. You know, you look at all the programs that could be in place, but when you have a person who's holding those programs away from the ones who truly need them, you have that going on. That's the corruption part. You know, why would you deprive a person of being able for their children to get out there and learn and have a good time? Why would you deprive them of that? Your kids do. You can go on a vacation. You know, most poor people can't take their families on no vacation. So why would you deprive them of that same, you know, at least a pretense of them enjoying themselves? And that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with that. But this is not just here. That's across our nation when it comes to African Americans. So
that's serious business. So basically the jobs that are there are hazardous to your health is pretty much what you're saying?
They're hazardous to your health, and it's a lot of nepotism going on here. A lot. I think about at the VA the VA is full of it, where people get jobs that don't have the skills, that don't have the education, that don't have the degrees, and they're in positions that they should have never ever gotten. And you have veterans who have the degrees, who have the experience, can't get a job. That's what tears me up. I know because I've worked there and I've seen it happen. I've seen Uncle Ray come in and get a job, and Uncle Ray don't have the experience to hold the job. And not only do they get the entry-level jobs, they get the high-end jobs. Okay, they get the GS 13, 14 jobs, GS 12 jobs, and you're like, what in the world going on here? And they pass over veterans, and they pass over people who already have the experience and who have the education, and they have the degrees to back it up.
So is there anything hopeful there?
I don't want to always sound like it's doom and gloom, because I think once they get a new mayor and they move around some of these city councilmen who are not doing anything, I think there's hope. And I think because of the mayor in Alexandria, desperate things, you know, people start doing desperate things because they notice that there's a change is about to come. They notice that they're going to be packing their bags. So they start getting desperate and start doing desperate things. Oh, you know, hold up. We'll put a recreation program together for the kids. You didn't think about that before, but because now people are complaining, now you want to put a recreation program together. So it's like little things like that really like gets me. Not to say that these kids don't deserve it, but you should have done that in the first place. Nobody should have to remind you to take care of the kids in your city. Okay? We have a high crime rate here also, not here, but in Alexandria, the Alexander side, because the kids have no jobs. You know, 99% of African-American teenagers do not have jobs, not only just here, but nationwide. Okay, there's no jobs out there for them. So what are they going to do?
So what encourages you to stay there?
My husband hasn't retired yet. My husband hasn't retired yet. That's what's encouraging me to stay here, is because my husband hasn't retired yet. No,
He's one of those companies, is he?
No. He works for the parish library system. Yeah. So yeah.
So what is actually being done there to even try to get a grip on that situation?
Well, like I said before, in order for a lot of things to happen, you have to change the regime. And if the regime is what's holding the progress up, then you have to get them out. And that's what they're dealing with, is that they're trying to get out. Come 2018, they're getting out that old regime and getting a new regime that's caring about the people and want to do for the people. And that's where we're at now. Campaign time's coming around, it's around the corner. So right now our job is to start vetting our candidates and start understanding that you need to get behind one candidate. Because what happens here, and it's been going on for a little bit, whenever election time comes up, and especially for the mayor position, what happens is 10 people go for that same position. How many times have you just split the vote? 11 times if you include him. So when you're splitting the black vote, because we have a whole bunch of us that get paid under the table to run, when you split the black vote, that's the worst vote you can do, especially when you in a city that's majority populated black. Okay, so we're trying to teach them how to not split the vote. Stay behind one candidate. Right now, they have somebody in mind right now. He already knows he's in mind because, they like, we picking you, you're going to be the one. And we're trying to encourage people to get behind him. And because you're not going to move forward when you got all these people running for the same position. You're not. What happens is when that happens, the mayor that's already in office, he gets right back there again. Because you split the vote.
Well, for the chemical poisoning that's in the air, is there any hope of it ever being a healthy environment?
Well, people have to understand, and I don't want to demonize EPA, but people have to understand the position the EPA is in. Donald Trump wants to get rid of the EPA. The EPA is nothing but a buffer. The EPA is only a buffer between the community and the companies that are destroying the communities. That's all they are. They're not a answer to everything. They're just a buffer. And if you look at the situation in Flint, they were a buffer. Flint is still have poisoned water. They still can't drink the water. They're with bottled water, and they're still fighting. Right now, they're in the process of recalling their mayor. I had an opportunity to interview Mr. Arthur Woodson, who's been the head person activist who's been pushing that. Actually, he went and did it. They actually have the numbers to recall their mayor because she came in office under the impression that she was going to do what she was supposed to do, and come to find out, she works with the governor. And a lot of things are not being done that should have been done. When you have to bathe in bottled water, you have to cook in bottled water, and your kids are sick, that kids have died of Legionnaire disease there.
But you also said this kind of reminded you of when you was in Panama. It was
Panama. During the time I was in Panama, when we had to, there's an obstacle course that we had to go through because they had chemicals there too. You have to remember, something happened there prior to Operation Just Cause. I can't remember what it was, but we got sort of not chemically poisoned, but we have rashes that nobody can explain where they come from. There's an obstacle course there called Green Hell. And every year that you're there, you have to go through this obstacle course. It's a mandatory obstacle course. And we do a lot of low crawling. You have to do obstacle course, period. Well, one time when I went through with my uniform, I got home and I took my uniform off and I was green from the head to the toe. I was green. So I had to go to the doctor and they didn't know what it was. Okay. To this day, I still suffer from a skin rash that nobody knows what it is. So, yeah, so I can say I'm probably chemical messed up too. You know what I'm saying? It flares up every now and then it goes away, and then it flares up every now and then, and it goes away. And I've been having it ever since Panama because I didn't have it prior to Panama. Prior to Panama, I was at Fort Rucker, Alabama. So we didn't do any obstacle course, and we didn't hang out in the jungle in Fort Rucker, Alabama. So yeah.
You know, I'm listening to you, and you're so amazing to me. From
Really?
Oh my goodness, it's like you're so like wholesome. It's like, how do I describe it? It's like your husband has cancer.
Yes. Matter of fact, we have an appointment at the end of this month again. We go to Texas. We go to MD Anderson in Texas for his treatments. I was very angry about some medication they had put him on. And I'm still angry because they had taken him off of it for a little bit to see how he react to it. And now he was telling me that they're talking about putting him back on it. They might have to escort me this time because I don't like the medication that they're putting him on. But he doesn't take any chemo, which they should have put him on chemo from the get-go. The doctor here wasn't too happy with what he did. So that's when I started doing my research on the different medications that he was on. And that's when I said, baby, we need to get a second opinion. And he actually listened to me. We had a second opinion. And we start going to Chicago, Cancer Centers of America in Chicago. And then we transferred to MD Anderson, which is one of the #1 cancer hospitals in the nation. So that's where he's at now. And because we live in Louisiana, we don't live that far, like 5 or 6 hours away, about 5 or 6 hours or more that we go. And we go get treatment and they make sure everything's fine. He has like something going on with his neck right now and they hoping and praying it's not cancer. So he has to go and get all that checked out. It's amazing that and you know what? And I want to say this, and I want people to understand that if you don't know, if you've been blessed to not to have anybody in your family to have cancer, you're truly blessed. It's frustrating because you're like, what happened? But come to find out, like I said, his father had cancer. His brother, who lives in California, he had cancer, but he's in remission. He's not having any problems. But my husband is a whole different ball game, and he's the oldest. So we're hoping on this trip down there that everything will be all right. That's all we can do. He's not sickly. I don't want to make it sound like he's sickly because he gets up, he goes to work every day. He laughs, he's funny, he's out in the yard. He's not where he can't get around or anything like that. But it could quickly get like that. And it can come to where you can lose everything at any time. But God has blessed us where we're not at that stage. He's not in any stages. But when they found it, it's great that they found it because if they would have, then we would be looking at stages of cancer. But they caught it in time. But yet still, we don't know if it spread. That's the whole thing about it. They got it from one place, but we don't know if it spread. So we're at that point. But my husband is just, if anybody knows me, I'm crazy. I love laughing. I love making people laugh. And me and him always at each other. We always try to make each other laugh. And it can be hard on a husband and wife. It really can, because you have somebody who's sick and you want to make sure everything's all right at all times, no matter what. Like I have this bad habit of when he sleep, like if you take a nap or something, I will stand over him. No, guys, that's crazy. But I stand over him and I look at his chest to make sure it's going up and down. Because not only that, my husband is also a heart attack survivor. He survived a massive heart attack he had. And he has stents in his heart. And it's from working. My husband's a workaholic. So he worked all the time and he never took care of himself. But when he married me, woo, I was a whole different ball game. You're going to go to the doctor. You're going to see. And by the time he got to the doctor, actually he was at an appointment and his doctor told to rush him, got the ambulance to rush him to the hospital because he was in the process of having a heart attack. And they caught it right on time while he was at his doctor's.
So you was a little angel for him.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's what I'm saying when looking at you and listening to you, it's like everything is so perfect. Like,
no.
I mean, it's like you have no evidence of your suffering and your struggle.
No.
No evidence.
But you know what? Let me tell you something. It does look good on the outside, but baby, it ain't always that way. Because I have my moments. And when my moments have, and another thing too that goes along with the PTSD, and I don't know if everybody suffers from it, I have agoraphobia, where I don't leave my house. And I can I can have moments where I don't leave my house for a whole week. I mean, not go anywhere. And I have a whole other life to live, but it just like stops me. And I can't leave my house. And people don't understand that really happens. So my husband, he's like, baby, the car wasn't moved today. I can tell you didn't move the car. He knows when I don't move the car because it's in the exact same place. When was the last time you left? Because he's working all the time. So when he comes home, we do your wifely things, do all that. But he can tell I didn't leave the house. You haven't left the house today. And he knows when I get in those moods because I don't want to be bothered. So yes, I have those moments, but majority of the time I try not to let them take over me. And that's why I told you I stay busy. I try to do everything. I'm into everything. And I do it on purpose because if I don't, I'll be doing that. I'll be locked up in my room and not wanting to deal with people, anything. But I can't because my whole life is social. I have radio stations to do. I have books. I have people I deal with. So I can't always be in that slump. I have to come out of it. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. But it's not perfect, baby. It's far from perfect. I have my moments.
You are on the Truth Will Set You Free show. I want you to give us a beautiful truth, if not one, at least two.
Okay, a truth is be true to yourself is one. Love yourself when nobody else wants to love you. Love yourself. And please, and I say this from my heart, stop looking for your happiness in somebody else. Your happiness, only you can gain that happiness because you're the only one who knows how you feel. So stop in relationships because we have a habit of, you have to make me happy. No. You don't put that burden on somebody else. That burden is yours. You make yourself happy, okay? Because you came in this world by yourself, guess what? You're going to leave because nobody's going to climb in the coffin with you, okay? You're going to be in that coffin by yourself. So you need to find your own happiness and live with your own happiness. And when you're with somebody, you show them happiness from you, not from them. And don't ever put that burden on anybody to make you happy. That's your duty, to make your own self happy.
Okay? Beautiful. I know you have another one.
Oh, another one. Oh my God. Okay.
I know you do. I just feel it.
Okay, let me see what another one I can tell you guys. I said be true to yourself. I think that's so important if we can start learning to love ourselves for who we are. Society has raped us, and I want to say, I know that's a strong word, but I want to use it for a reason because it's raped us of being able to believe in ourselves and do for ourselves and be comfortable in our skin. You know, we're now on this kick where we're pushing and promoting, be comfortable, because you've been told that you're not skinny, you're not pretty, you have a flat butt, you have no chest, you have little hair, you know, you've had all these derogatory things said to you. Society has said you have to look a certain way. So when you're being true to yourself, you look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, this is me. I can't change this. I'm not going to change this. This is me. And if you have a problem with it, that's on you, society. I'm not going to change me. And when you can take that energy and embrace that freedom, it's easy for you. And I can say that from my own experience, because all my life, I didn't think I was attractive. All my life, being dark-skinned, I'm like the darkest one in my family. Having the big nose, you know, having the big lips. You know, people, you know, always say, oh, look at you, you're dark. Oh my God, I didn't know you were that dark. You know, you're hearing that all the time. You hear that as a young girl, then you hear it as a woman, and then you hear it as an older woman. You know, so you look at how society kind of framed us, put us in this little box when we don't belong in the box. We're all individual. And I'll say this about us. I'm not going to say I don't care about anybody else, but I'm saying about us. Our people, we have a beautiful people. We are a beautiful people. Big nose, big lips, big ears. We are beautiful. Big bodies, little bodies. We're beautiful. We are beautiful. And we have to tell ourselves that we don't have to fall into everybody else's box. We come out of our own box. We don't have to be packaged a certain way. Let us be us, because after a while you start looking like everybody else. You start being like everybody else. I don't want to look like everybody else. I like being me, you know, but you got to come to that point. A lot of people are not at that point. And that's why they have so many problems with their outer appearance, because they haven't become comfortable with themselves. And believe it or not, I still kind of suffer from that in certain times in my life. I suffer from that still, because I was so torn down and told all these negative things. So they don't go away. You know, they're still in the back of your mind. So yeah, so be true to yourself. Love yourself. Say, I love
you. And you are beautiful.
Oh, thank you. And so are you.
Why, thank you very much. Thank you so much for being on the Truth Will Set You Free show.
I thank you for having me. This was wonderful.
And you know, anytime you want to come back, you just let me know.
Definitely. Anytime.
Because I don't mind blessings.
Well, thank you for considering me a blessing.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and see you later, okay?
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.